This episode is brought to you by Progressive. Most of you aren't just listening right now, you're driving, cleaning, and even exercising. But what if you could be saving money by switching to Progressive? Drivers who save by switching save nearly $750 on average, and auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
What's up, everybody? It's ImmaLetYouFinish, show number 149 on the Pantheon Podcast Network. It's your host, Court and Amy. What's up, Ames?
We have a special guest today. We have author, and can I just say that this is like our third PhD candidate? Or actual like doctor or actual. So author Steacy Easton is going to be here, and they have written a really cool new book called Why Tammy Wynette Matters, and we will find the fuck out by the time we're done talking to them. So very excited. All right. Speaking of things that don't matter. Madonna.
Actually, no, things that do matter, actually.
All right, she's healthy.
Madonna, I think it does matter, and I think that, listen, I know I rag a lot on the madness of some of the shit that drives me crazy with Madonna, but I think everybody knows how much I love her. And I don't want anybody to be ill with a full body infection, because the truth of the matter is the last 2 people in the last couple of years that I've known that have gotten full body infections, it killed both of them very, very quickly. So that's a really serious thing. And we're glad to see that she kind of, listen, she drives both of us nuts, but at the same time, Madonna is still an icon in the game, and I want her to take care of herself.
I don't want her to croak, for Christ's sakes.
But listen,
it's bad. What happened was bad.
Listen, if they have to use Narcan to revive you, that's bad. You know what I mean? That's really, really, really bad.
I tell you, if you ever want to know where the 10th circle of hell is and where the scummiest human beings on the face of the earth exist, read the comment section on page 6.
Let me just tell you something.
I
have taken a peek there
continuously. I don't know. I should even just stop, because it's appalling.
It's really bad. It's like, okay, we all know that the Post is our conservative paper. But the things that I have read, and wait, they have a TikTok page. You should read the comments that people leave. It's just
unbelievable. It really is like you're wishing death up. I mean, whatever. I mean, I don't even want to give it that much, as the kids say, energy. But I'm just never ending. So I didn't mean to be flip about what matters. Obviously, we don't. Whatever issues we have, she's. It's very serious. She's postponing her tour.
She's postponed the entire U.S. leg, which is smart.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, so now the tour is going to start in October with the European dates.
And she's, she's getting better. That's good. And the Post is scum.
Let me just tell you,
they're scum. That they don't censor any of that stuff.
And listen,
I mean, I don't even want to repeat what the comments are.
And I get being like, listen, we don't censor comments, but it is a full racist, xenophobic.
It's unbelievable.
The things that people write there, I'm just like, I understand letting people have freedom of expression, but you guys are okay with this shit, because this is.
No, it's awful.
Some other level.
Yeah, it's awful. All right. Well, another person that people who read the Post have no use for, and I kind of don't have much use for either. You don't like her? No.
A lot of my female friends don't like her.
No, it's not because I'm a woman. I think she's Angelina Jolie. I have many. All right, let me tell you honestly. I don't think about her ever. I don't think about her ever. I don't care about her. I don't wish her well. I don't wish her bad. I'm hearing some music in the background.
Miss Thing, what you're hearing is, because it's 9,000 degrees, so I had to keep the window open. And what you're hearing is Harlem driving. Someone's at the light, because, I'm by the corner.
Oh, nice.
There's a light.
Okay, well, that's good. As long as we don't have to pay publishing on it.
No, because New York is still, Uptown is still a place where people play their music on 73 in their car.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, she has bought. It having to do with being a woman. I just don't get.
Oh, it's getting louder. I know it's getting louder. How's that even possible?
I know. What are they playing? Can you request? Anyway, she has bought the last apartment and studio of the late.
Well, she didn't buy it. She's renting it. Whoever owns that space where it's the workspace in the apartment.
I think it's the estate, isn't the estate?
They rent it. They've never sold it, so she's renting it.
Okay, so she's going to open up. She's going to open a clothing company, an atelier. I can't pronounce that.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Used to be. It's a place you make clothes.
I know that, but I'm like, are you making clothes? Or is that just what you're calling your office space?
I was going to say something so mean and offensive. I'm not even going to say it. So
and she's keeping the front with the graffiti because she's like, I want that to be the spirit of Basquiat.
Al, our friend Al Diaz his head is exploding over this.
Well, can I just say, for the first time though, I read in ArtNet, at least when they were talking about this,
they mentioned
for the first time. Well, they didn't say his name, but at least for the first time, they were like, John Michel was one half.
I know.
And I was like, well, I guess baby steps. At least now we're just acknowledging that it wasn't just him by himself.
I just find this whole thing to be like virtue signaling on the worst order. She's not opening up an art school. She's opening up a fashion school. The Basquiat estate does not need any more money. She could lease a building and donate. There's just so many ways. And it's just like she has no connection to this. She has it's like, whatever, go. You're a rich lady. The whole thing is just like, look, please, please. It has nothing to do with anything. It really doesn't. I mean, she's bored. She's bored and an overrated actress. She's an overrated actress.
I love Angelina Jolie.
I'd find her to be. But the point is that this has nothing to do with anything. Right. And it's just, rent another building. Mm-hmm. I'm going to keep the graffiti and the spirit of Basquiat. What do you know about the spirit of Basquiat? Like, seriously, you are the child of famous people living in Hollywood. Ay, Dios mío. All right.
Well, once people have done research for a role, they're experts, sweetie.
She was never in any of your
just saying. I know. When they do research.
She played a heroin addict in a movie.
If someone does research for something, they can always say, like, well, I did research and I had the best coaches in the world, so I know art.
A real junkie showed me how to shoot up. Right. All right. This is there's just all these stories. I'm like, maybe because I'm preoccupied. All right, so please give me the pronunciation of his name, the basketball player.
Victor Wembanyama.
Okay, who's very tall. So he was very tall, and was the number one draft pick this year. French. He's French, right?
Mm-hmm. He is French, yes.
So his bodyguard, Britney Spears, who's like 4'2" or something. How tall is Britney? She's tiny, right? She's like most pop stars. She's little, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even me, who's like almost 6 feet tall, would be little next to this guy. Anyway, so they were in Vegas and he was doing like a meet and greet or something. And she went up and she claims she tapped him to get an autograph. First off, I don't believe she knows who he is anyway, but that's a whole other conversation. And his bodyguard backhanded her and she fell.
Well, she didn't. And the thing is, she didn't actually fall. You know what I mean? It was a weird, like, this story, okay, without even going into the whole thing, it's like, why are we even saying those two names together? You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like, every time I hear Britney's name since she's been freed, it just feels like madness.
There's a thing, I've brought it up before to show off how fancy I am. There's a thing in writing called an unreliable narrator. Mm-hmm. Like if you read The Great Gatsby, Nick, someone who's an unreliable narrator is like, you can't believe what they say. The author sets in mind. Britney Spears is an unreliable narrator. Her husband actually is the real unreliable narrator. So I'm sorry if she fell. not for nothing, and I'm not excusing behavior, but come on, she's been famous her entire life. She doesn't know you can't go up to somebody behind their back and touch them. Next. Let's ask Steacy about the Tracy Chapman thing. Let's talk about Tracy. You want to talk about Tracy Chapman with Steacy? Let's just talk about now how great it is. Tracy Chapman is the first Black woman to have a #1 country airplay, right? With Luke Combs' cover of Fast Cars.
Airplay and #1 on the Country 100 chart.
Phenomenal.
Like, as a solo writer, she wrote that song, and it's amazing. First of all, it's amazing to see that Luke Combs' version, even on the pop charts, has risen higher than hers did. Right?
Yeah.
But I love that Tracy Chapman is one of those artists who absolutely controls her music and how it's presented and who gets to record it and all of those things. And good for her. Good.
And also good for him. Good for him for not changing the pronouns in the song.
And good for
country music to not change the pronouns is a major.
Well, he did a faithful remake, which is, we don't really get that. We've had a couple, but it's an absolute faithful remix.
No, it's very good.
And it's great.
It shows that he actually values the song. Remember when she co-owned Cocoa Bar? Remember that?
Did she?
Yes. You never heard that whole story?
No.
So it was allegedly it was Rebecca Walker and Alice Walker. This is when Alice Walker was with Tracy Chapman. I don't know. Yeah. This may have been like hood, Fort Greene boho gossip, but supposedly she had something to do with Cocoa Bar.
Right.
Yeah, whatever. Here's what I have to say about the Stevie J Faith. She has to pay him alimony. She's got that kind of money?
Okay. Am I the shady one? That was my first thought?
No, I'm like, Faith? I mean, she's written songs. But he's no matter what you think of Stevie J, and there's a lot to think of Stevie J, he has VH1 money.
Well, clearly not a lot of it, because
he has. Wasn't he one of the hitmen? Isn't that him?
Yes.
He has hitmen money.
Evidently not a lot of it.
I don't believe in alimony anyway. I don't believe in it.
It's like,
unless you're someone who has taken someone out of the workplace. Like if you're somebody who's like, I want you home raising my kids and I forbid you to get a job.
I believe in alimony, and I don't believe, like, they've only were married for 3 years. It's like, why do I have to pay? That's a weird one to me. I feel like if you were together, we've been together for 20-something years. Right. I held it down. I had your back while you were, and this is male or female, while you were doing your thing. I raised the kids. I made sure we had a house. Right. And you decided to leave me and I never worked. Yes. I can see.
Yes.
I can see where it's like.
Not like I could go out but she has that kind of money?
Miss Thing, it gagged me too. I had to read it 3 times when I saw the
headline. I was like, and I love
Faith.
No shade. I think she's great.
This is not about counting anybody's coins.
No. It's just like, that's all we have to say. I was very surprised that there was that much, what are they called? Liquid assets or money. I just didn't think there was that much money with those two. Remember when he used to go live with Eve?
Miss Thing, all of the things. Remember when he leaked that little bit of the sex tape? But
what I'm saying, I was going through my archives the other day, and I found an Eve story, and this was when he was considered like a good guy.
Yeah. What cracked that and what changed that was when he leaked a bit of their sex tape. They had made a private sex tape, and that's when we started realizing
most sex tapes are private, aren't they?
Not these days, because these days it seems like every sex tape it seems like it's a marketing tool. Like, hi,
no, back in the day,
I have an album coming out, but oh my goodness, my sex tape with fabulous lighting.
All right. I'm just shocked that she has that kind of money.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to do the New York Times really fast.
Okay.
New York Times has gotten rid of their sports decks, which sucks because they're really good. And they're now shifting everything over to this website they bought called The Athletic. Allegedly, nobody is going to lose their jobs at the Times, but hold for it. The Athletic is not a union house. So, hello. Thanks.
And I read The Athletic. I do.
Yeah, but
here's the interesting thing. I didn't realize the Times had a sports desk because I never.
Come on!
I don't read any sports in the Times. I read the Times,
really?
but I never read sports in the Times.
Well,
that's not where I go to.
Even though we were just trashing Page 6, they always had the best sports section. Daily News.
Listen.
Mike Lupica. Where was Mike Lupica? The Daily News, right?
I think it's the Daily News.
Yeah, that was a good. Yeah, you don't read the Times for sports, but they do have a sports desk. I almost fell down, Courtney. You happy?
Again, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with our guest, Steacy Easton. Hold on. We'll be right back.
Hello, Pantheon Podcast listeners. Christian Swain here to tell you more about my experience with Raycon earbuds. Our family now has 3 pairs of Raycon earbuds around the house, and my wife just grabbed a pair of the Headphone Pros to replace some headphones from a company that was double the price. And yes, she loves them. Now, if you haven't pulled the trigger on a pair of Raycons, or even if you have, but you're in the market for another pair because they're just that good, well, now is the time to check them out, because they just launched their upgraded model of the best-selling everyday earbuds. With Raycon's upgraded everyday earbuds, now you also get active noise cancellation, ergonomic design, and multi-point connectivity that lets you pair with 2 devices at once. New quick charge function, 3 customizable sound styles, plus awareness mode. Available in a variety of vibrant new colors to complement any and all skin tones. I even have a pair of earbuds in a cool green color. I have tried just about every earbud known to humankind, and these Raycons are fantastic. Seriously, if you've been wanting to check out Raycons, there truly is no better time. You're going to ask yourself why you didn't check them out sooner, and Raycon offers a 30-day happiness guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to buyraycon.com/Pantheon today to get 20% off your Raycon order, plus free shipping. That's right, you'll get 20% off and free shipping at buyraycon.com/Pantheon. buyraycon.com/Pantheon.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to me talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy, and you could save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 28 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
And we're back.
Oh my God, there's someone on our screen.
There is someone on our screen.
Hey, Steacy.
Hey.
So, Steacy has, I'm going to do this. I do this every time we have someone on. I'm going to hold the book up so that nobody can see it because this is an audio thing. But I'm going to hold it up. Okay, Steacy, first off, I really like the book. And you know, I have like a thing about big words. I get very nervous when there's big words.
As a writer? You're a writer. Why do you get nervous?
Excuse me, what did I write about for fucking 30 years? Are there big words needed when you're reviewing a Brian McKnight record? No, there were not. Nor should there be. For crying out loud. Jesus Christ.
Can I use big words in this?
No, you have big words, but... And you're obviously really smart, which is very intimidating. But it's a really good book.
Thank you.
And you are the second author of this series to be on our little dog and pony show. We had the equally delicious Charles Hughes on a few months ago.
That is a hard act to follow. That man is just unbelievably brilliant.
I know. He's really... And you're going for a PhD for... Oh, this is too much. We need to get some dummies on this show, Courtney.
See, the secret about a PhD is it's not about smart. It's just about having like donkey-like tenacity. It's just an inability to give up when you should actually be giving up.
Yeah, I have a master's, and that was bad enough. But I just like the fact that I can say I'm a master. Anyway.
I slept with a master. Does that count?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it totally counts. All right. So this is...
First of all, I grew up with Tammy Wynette.
I grew
up in a country and Western household. My mother's from the country of North Carolina. Country music ruled in our house. She loved country music. So I love Tammy Wynette. And I love that you wrote a book on Tammy because, first of all, she was a very, very layered woman who lived a lot of different lives. You know,
there was a lot there. There was a huge amount of just stuff in that biography for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you select Tammy? Why?
I think because a bunch of reasons. There's a lot of stuff written about Dolly and a lot of stuff written about Loretta, and I feel like she was sort of underrepresented. And I think I'm interested in class and sexuality and gender and performance, and I think Tammy did a lot of that. I'm really interested in sort of weird domesticity or even like regular domesticity because I don't really ever have that kind of domestic life. And Tammy
it's overrated. I mean, being married is overrated. It's really overrated. No,
Thank you. Really if you know anybody, I'm taking applications.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'd like to see it for myself if it is overrated.
Oh well, but you get it. I got a kid out of it, so that was fun. So,
well, and then all my friends are getting married and having kids right now, right? So, like, I'm trying to figure out what that means, and then my mom. I grew up in central Alberta, and so a lot like North Carolina, we lived in a country household. And then I had this amazing English teacher in like 12th grade named Deborah Kelly. I keep using her name just as a hope that she'll actually reach out to me. But she assigned country music as an English assignment.
Wow, that's cool.
And I got Stand By Your Man. So I've also been thinking about Stand By Your Man for 25 years in some capacity or the other. So that's a long answer, but I don't give short answers.
That's okay. Well, one of the things I did not grow up in a country household at all. I think the first time I ever heard country music was probably Johnny Cash, and that was within a rock context. But I'm talking about when I was in junior high. I'm older than both of. I definitely way older than you, Steacy, and I'm just a little bit older than Courtney. But we have, I do. What I thought was really interesting. Well, there's many things that are interesting about the book, but the way you sort of position, Dolly has become like America's Care Bear. Like everybody loves Dolly. I mean, you really you'd have to go out of even when she was up for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and people were having debates, it was always prefaced by, "But who doesn't love Dolly?" It's like. And then Loretta Lynn is seen as this. I mean, she has probably one of the best biopics ever done about her, and seen as this real sturdy. Tammy Wynette is sort of seen as like you point out, she got like an after-school special movie. She's not taken in the same pecking order as those two other women, and she's sort of seen the impression as kind of like lesser than in many ways,
Well, I don't think she was given. I still haven't sort of the end of it. I wrote the thing and I still don't quite know why. She's well beloved within country music circles in the community. But and her reputation is also not there. She could have had the great movie. She could have had the movie of the week is on YouTube. It was, and it's terrible. It is profoundly camp. And I always wonder with that. And then also
George and Tammy, which just aired, right? Wasn't that on Showtime?
Yeah, but also not great. I have, and the fascinating thing about George and Tammy is that it's based on George Jones's daughter's memoirs. So this is the thing that happens with Tammy all the time. Even George and Tammy is an attempt to critically revive the reputation of George Jones. And then if you listen to the Tyler Coase podcast, it's as much about George Jones as it is about Tammy. And if you read the McDonough biography, it's the same thing. So that's, and then in Trio, in the trio that she did with Loretta and Dolly near the end of her life, she was always overshadowed by Loretta and Dolly. I always wonder if it's an interior Nashville thing. Dolly's sort of universal ambassador, and Loretta is the state senator. But there seems to be this interior community towards Tammy, especially at the end of her life. Yeah, I don't know. It's fascinating.
Do you think it's because and you do a very good job documenting. Well, she's not the first woman who has been slapped around by her partner. A lot, a lot of women have. But do you think it's because she was so closely associated with such a huge star? Nobody even knows who Dolly's husband is. Loretta Lynn, he was always in the background. Dew, right? That was his name? Dew. And he was played by Tommy Lee Jones, so hence he was perfect. And her dad was Levon Helm, for fuck's sake. Come on. But do you think it's because George Jones is such a mythical figure in country music that she's just going to be seen, no matter how big she is, as George Jones's singing partner?
I think that's true. I think it's also cis-het dudes are always making sure the Jones is up there when Tammy isn't. But her marriage to Jones was tiny and short, and they made significant work together. I never wanted to, but she was with Burt Reynolds for nearly as long as she was with George Jones.
I forgot she was. Did you remember that, Courtney, that she was with Burt Reynolds?
You know what? I think part of it is that she died. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
she's been gone. Thing. She wasn't around to really receive her flowers and have the whole have a full revival. She had a bit of a revival moment when she did Justified and Ancient with the KLF, right? And she had a huge pop hit around the world. But then Tammy died, right? Dolly is still here, and Loretta didn't die until maybe 3 years ago. Right?
Well, and Loretta had the Van Leer Rose, right?
Yeah,
the Jack White record, yeah.
So this is the thing that's Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you go.
This is the thing, the counterfactual in my head is, she died super early. And so you always wonder, did she have, a chance for that revival record? And she died in the worst bed of her career too. She had that KLF record, or the KLF single, and a country record that was okay after that. But she died not making her best work. She died in a critical and commercial dip, and she was never a chance to revive. I suspect there were enough, Elton John, of course, loved her. Elvis Costello loved her. So I do wonder if there was a chance, if she'd lasted another 10 years, if she would have had a chance to make that work.
Right, that record where somebody who really loves her came back and they produced the record and brought her back to prominence. And then you kind of get you start getting the retrospective of someone's work, and then people start to view it in a different way and appreciate it differently. I do think that is absolutely a big part of it, because Tammy had huge hits, but they almost seem forgotten. But if you also think about, there's a whole bunch of women from that era that people don't talk about anymore. They don't talk about Janie Fricke. They don't talk about Juice Newton. You know what I mean? They don't talk about Crystal Gale. There were a lot of country women that were having hits, but who are the ones that people always go to, right? You've got Dolly, and I think Dolly's
Reba.
Yeah, and Reba. Yeah. And Dolly's presentation, I think, really, she's very, very talented. We love Dolly. She writes her songs. But her presentation, I think, helped because people like to look at Dolly, right? Because you're going to get hair and boobs and sparkles and then that personality. And then Dolly did smart other ventures, with all of her charitable work and the amusement park. So she infused herself in culture differently. Loretta was always seen as the first lady, right? So she's going to be, she's like the top of the pyramid.
Well, it's like Patsy Cline dies and Loretta inherits her authenticity, which is, Right.
There's a couple of really interesting things about that. I'm working on a 33 and a third about Dolly right now.
Oh, amazing. We love the 33 and the third series.
So I'm doing this bunch of interviews from 1989 with Dolly, which was her fallow period. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching interviews from TNT and Regis and Kelly and Regis and Kathy Lee. Regis is creepy, by the way.
I'm sorry.
That's a whole other subject and a whole other story.
Regis.
Do you?
Oh my God, I met him once, and you would have thought I was meeting Brian Ferry. No, I love him. Sorry.
I'll have an anecdote about Regis in a second.
I'm sure he's a jerk, but the point is I love him.
This appearance in 1989, but because this is great anecdote. But Dolly talks as much about the theme park in these interviews as she does about the album or the movie that's coming out. And then I was talking to Charles Hughes, and I thought Charles said this, and Charles thought I said this, so maybe it's a co-authorship. But Dolly is never not going to be a capitalist, right? Dolly is always about sort of maintaining image to make money. And as much as I love Dolly, I think it's absolutely true. Tammy's really interesting for a bunch of reasons in this capacity, but I think part of it is she was spent so much time being sick, and in this weird codependent relationship with Nashville that she never quite, I think, broke out of that kind of crystal cage, and about stuff. And so that memory doesn't quite sort of restore itself. And then she had that sort of terribly politically reactionary hit, and then we all think that that's the only thing about Tammy. Yeah, I don't know why. And then she was overshadowed by George, and so I don't think her reputation has been settled yet, which is a very sort of odd thing to say.
Was she liked by the Nashville?
Oh, she was adored. She was absolutely adored. She was central. And she was called the Queen of Country Music, right?
Right.
I mean, the problem is, I think "Stand by Your Man" is also so problematic because, in hindsight, it's not that big of a deal. But I mean, the song single-handedly destroyed Hillary Clinton. I mean, the reference to the song, and it sort of set up this kind of real East Coast Southern, we don't do that sort of thing. And it's a great song. I mean, just as a song, it's great. And it was a song for its time. But, if you were a young burgeoning feminist, raise his hand, you're really? Stand by your man?
But the truth is, and you guys say that, but you all stay with bad boyfriends too longer than you should.
All right, we're not going to have this conversation.
No, but I'm just saying, but that was the thing.
True.
No, it is true for someone. Maybe not true for you. You can't make that as a general statement because I've sat and talked to so many of my girlfriends with bad, and I'm like, just leave. That was the thing about Tammy. I think she spoke about shit that was really happening to a lot of women.
No, of course she did. Of course she did. That's why the song resonated. What I'm saying is, it then took on a life of being, I mean, she was a conservative. She performed for George Wallace. I mean, so it took on a life of being not a like, I'm your ride or die chick, but like let him step all over you, no matter what,
I think a bunch of things about this. I think I don't like Hillary. I'm progressive as all get out, but I think that she's always sort of had this moment of sort of not respecting a lot of discourses that she wasn't involved in. I always found her a little patronizing, and I always found that "Stand by Your Man" comment just sort of arrogant, right? And I think that's, and I know that work she did, and I know the work is good, but I think that should be noted. And I also think that she knew what she was doing. She spent time in the South. She spent time in Little Rock. She did advocacy work in the South in the 70s. So she's been decades in the South, so she knew what she was doing. And then I think the song is a lot more sophisticated. David Cantwell, the critic, has this great line where he talks about the second line of the song, like giving all your love to just one man, which suggests that she had a kind of prolificacy. She had a period there. And I don't think the song is necessarily ironic, but I think the song has an emotional ambivalence that isn't allowed when we talk about the song. We think of it as, and she was reactionary, right? She was super conservative. She was, but I think there's an ambivalence. I think there's an ambivalence towards her biography too. There's this great line by Dolly that said that, Tammy Wynette, sorry, let me see now, sang "Stand by Your Man," but she never did. Right.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that's reality, right? I mean, people stay with people for whatever amount of reasons. I just want to ask you real quick, because a really interesting, not anecdote, anecdote, I guess. You talk about the time that she was I'm always told I have to say allegedly all the time. So allegedly kidnapped, and how nobody believed her. Could you talk? Yeah, I mean, first off, I had forgotten that she had been allegedly kidnapped.
She had a lot of strange shit. It was kind of like,
there was always sort of like, Tammy, okay,
It's like, and you're back? What happened?
What happened? How did you do that? She was, can you talk a little bit about that? Because that was like, what? Oh, right. That's right. She was kidnapped.
I'll tell you, when I first wrote the book, I knew the kidnapping would have to be a chapter, and I thought that I would be a good investigative journalist, and I'm a critic. I'm not a journalist, but I would figure that I would, for once and only, I would figure out what happened with the kidnapping. And so I read the biographies, and I read some tabloids, and I watched really sleazy shows on CMT that were like on like gray market television, and I went through her autobiography, and I was like, I don't know what happened. I think like you don't trust men in this set of circumstances, and she's coming through this period of extreme domestic upset. There's like she had words scrawled in the back of her house. There was a fire at that point. There were phone calls in the middle of the night. So there was this history of domestic violence that was occurring, and then you always want to believe something. You always want to, as a second wave feminist, my mom was subscribed to Ms. There was always this strong belief in the victim, and I want to do that, right? And there's some evidence that suggests that that she was in this mall in suburban Tennessee, and she has this giant flashy Cadillac, and she had a lot of credit cards on her. She had 30-something credit cards on her, and then she didn't really remember what was happening, and she got deposited like 80 miles from her home in a farmhouse of fans of hers who were strangers. And then like the cops came, but then she was on the cover of People.
No, that's the thing. It's like, Tammy, girl, I love you. I love you, but you tried it. You really, really, really tried it. And next thing you know, it's like, kidnapped him back. Tammy.
She would have had a hard time in our social media world because there's just a cynicism about everything now that would be
especially when somebody would have been taping her in the Chili's down the road from where she supposedly got kidnapped.
But this is the thing. It's like, I think about this, right? Like, every possible scenario in that kidnapping was plausible. And then, like, 2 weeks after she went on the front cover of People, well, good for her. Like, always get the cover.
Always get the cover.
The cops completely dropped the case, and they don't have a conversation about the case. And so, like, and then there's this whole horrific history of domestic violence beforehand. So
I feel like she was trying to escape something. I do. Part of me always felt with that story, it felt like there was some shit going on and she was like, I'm out of here. You know, and it was easier to come up with a story and say I was kidnapped than deal with whatever.
She didn't do a Susan Smith at least and like blame some like innocent black guy who just happened to be, you know, what's her face from To Kill a Mockingbird? The girl that she says Tom Robbins. Yeah, I should know this. I've read the book 100 times. At least she didn't do that, you know. Yeah,
I don't know. I had a friend of mine who had reading in Toronto was like, it was the husbands, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they're like, and Richie was like, George Ritchie, her last husband, was like involved in some really sketchy shit, like music industry in the South, sketchy shit,
right?
And nothing's provable, and she was messy.
That's the thing. She was messy, and she liked messy people.
Yeah,
and that's why she sang about messy things, and people love those songs. You know.
Well, I mean, drugs. I mean, when drug addicts don't tend to lead very organized lives. You know.
No.
The only thing they can kind of organize is getting a refill. You know.
Yeah.
And what are you? I want to ask you about who else you're listening to, or what do you think about? Oh, I know. We want to talk to you about. We had mentioned the Tracy Chapman, Luke Combs having a #1 single, basically meaning Tracy Chapman having a #1 single on the country charts, and what you thought about that. Since you're much more in the country music world than I am.
Yeah, I have two competing thoughts. The first is that, that is not a white man's song. And
really? It's a white person song. Do you really not? It's a white person song. I think so. Yeah. You don't think that no one has ever wanted to escape? I mean, all right. Continue. Sorry.
No, I think it has sort of. I'm white, so I don't know. I can't.
So am I.
No, I think that there's a black and queer liberation text, and we have to be really careful about absorbing those liberation texts for sort of banal white causes. Luke Combs sings really well, and I'm really glad Chapman got her bag. After decades of living with Alice Walker, she deserves something.
See, I told you, Courtney. I told you there was a connection. They co-owned a bar and a coffee shop in my neighborhood, but I couldn't remember what the actual connection was. Sorry.
And now that you say it again, I kind of sort of remember that.
Do you remember that?
I do kind of sort of remember.
Because I'm sorry, we're going Fort Greene in the night. They just shut down one day.
And people would be like,
and there was like drama. There was major fucking drama. Sorry, we're just like Alice Walker and allegedly Tracy Chapman and Alice Walker. Rebecca Walker ran like the first cyber cafe in Brooklyn, basically, Cocoa Bar, and they had performances, and you could go there and hang out and coffee and blah blah blah. This is Brooklyn, Fort Greene in like 93, 94.
When it was black.
When it was black and cheap. Black and cheap and creative. Anyway, so they owned this place, and there was always and then one day it just like shut down. like out of nowhere. And it was like the Alice Walker. We knew Rebecca was involved in it, but the Alice Walker, Tracy Chapman, and it started taking on a 6 Degrees of Black Queer Famous level. And it was like, yee. And we were trying to remember if there was that. Never mind. All right. I'm going to argue as to why. I mean, I think a song of, first off, I applaud him for not changing the pronouns. I think that that's kind of, for country music, that's got to be a kind of, no pun intended, ballsy move. And I don't know. It's a song about desperation. I mean, right? I mean, there's white poverty. I mean, poverty is poverty. Desperation, trapped is trapped. It's not a song that ever really resonated with me. I mean, I admired it. I liked it. It's a great song, but it didn't. But I think I don't know. For me, I think that it's a song. He does such a good job with it that I have to give him his dap for that. He does such a good job with it.
Yeah, he does a solid job of it. He knows the text and he works through it well. Yeah, I don't. And it's not Morgan Wallen.
It's really interesting that your take on that though, because I was working at The Wiz when that album.
It's a record chain.
It was in. Yeah.
All right, we're being polite.
And
we don't know what Tim Horton is.
Right. I know what Tim Horton is. Like,
I know what it is too, but I'm just pretending. I'm just pretending to be ignorant. Okay. All right.
It's and it's an interesting thing that you would say that, because when that album, I worked at the Wiz when that album came out. We could not keep it in stock. It was that popular, but it was all white people buying that record. So it's interesting that you see it as, Black and queer liberation. It'd be like lots of lesbians, black and white, but literally it was all white people buying that Tracy Chapman album.
But she wasn't played on Black radio. We always get back to that, right?
She was not played on Black radio.
I was working at VH1 back then, and she was like one of the few Black artists that managed to slip onto their playlist, Right. So
that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which part?
Oh no, just that I always think that. I guess because I consider the rest of the songs in that album, and I consider it part of the rest of the songs in that album.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, we should. I'll frame what I'm saying. If you were Greg Tate, if you were Nelson George, if you were the people in their they would have been in their 40s at that point, late 30, 40, who were Black writers writing about Black music and writing about pop culture in general, then yes, Tracy Chapman was definitely on your radar. But if you were working at which Wiz did you work at? The one in Brooklyn? The Fulton Street one?
No, darling. I worked at 2 different Wizes. I was at the one that used to be by the Empire State Building, and then I transferred and I worked at the Wiz in the Village.
Oh, okay. So if you were working at the Wiz in the Village, no, a lot of Black kids are not going to come in and buy that record. But if you're, you know what I mean? So I understand why it wouldn't be super popular, because at that point she was viewed as such an outlier in any genre. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, that was not a typical song to get on radio.
I love the album. A lot of my friends who are gay, we love the album. But like you said, it was not played on Black radio in America. This Tracy Chapman worked to pop and adult contemporary.
Right.
You know what I mean? But Black radio didn't play any of those songs that we all consider classic. That's a classic album that sold a gazillion copies, won her a bunch of Emmys. But remember, all of those Emmys are like
Grammys.
So Grammys are like, what was it, like Song of the Year, maybe,
or folk,
pop vocal performance. None of it was R&B or any of the urban-based awards.
I think now would be a very different. I mean, I think the fact. I'm wondering, what do you think about this, Stacey? Do you think the people who are buying? Because I'm, like I said, totally checked out of country music. I paid a lot of attention, except for the cool country, obviously, like Dwight Yoakam. Everybody did that. But about 20 years ago, when I was supposed to marry somebody who lived down south, but that's a whole nother podcast. Do you think the people buying the record know the backstory of the record in terms that it's Tracy Chapman, who she is, or do they just think it's a cool song?
I don't know. There's a kind of flattening right now with Spotify and streaming and all of that, where I don't know if the history is. I don't know if we're as sort of crate diggy as we used to be, but then I think that it's gotten a bunch of press for her.
Yeah.
And then I think that critics' taste is different than populist taste, even if we're talking about pop music. And so there's this assumption. I have this assumption that everybody knows everything.
Nobody knows nothing.
Nobody knows shit.
Read the comment section on page 6. Nobody knows nothing.
Well, the thing that's interesting now about some of the critics, and I'm reading like some, especially, listen, oh God, this is gonna be terrible. But
the young ones, say it.
I'm realizing when I'm reading some of the reviews or retrospectives for some of the young ones, and I read some of the things, and I'm like, this isn't. You don't know the proper context or history of this. This isn't what you're saying here is not correct. And there's a whole breadth of information here. I don't understand what you're saying and what you're. So. Listen, it's a very weird thing. I'm happy for her because her name is being tossed around a lot. There's a lot of work. And hopefully this has some of those young people who are liking this version dig into her catalog and go in and realize there's more to her than her first album. There's a lot of great work there to dig into.
And that's what I'm hoping for too. I think I'm always curious about this, right? Because she's like on a horse farm in California, right? Mm-hmm. And so she did this kind of like
she's got color purple money.
Yeah, she does sort of like she does, and this sort of like Norma Desmond quality to her a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's this beautiful, like, really complex image that is floating in my head where she's like, "I'm not going to turn down the money." And I'm not going to turn down the chance to have this new audience, but she's kind of also has spent the last 10 or 12 or whatever years sort of rejecting fame. And so I wonder if she's like, I don't want to put words in her mouth. I don't want to think about this, but I have this thought about like whether she's a little churlish about it. Like
she's offered statements that she's very grateful and very happy. I mean, she is not taking the look, as long as a woman artist is having a revival and Brandi Carlile isn't involved, we should all thank Black Jesus for that.
Okay? And honestly, I think of her like Kate Bush. From people I know that know Tracy Chapman is not some recluse somewhere. She's just one of those people who's never been. I'm a songwriter. I'm a singer-songwriter. I make an album. I go on tour. She's never been, here's my house. Here are my friends. Here's my life. And I kind of appreciate that about her. Where she's like, sure, this is about my work. She's
a working musician. Yeah, she's a working musician.
You don't need to see where I live. You don't need to know who I'm dating. You don't need to know what I eat. You know what I mean? It's like I come in, like Kate Bush. Kate Bush pops in when she wants to, and she's out. And I actually appreciate that, you know?
Yeah, me too.
Well, and I think she had to sign off on the writing, right? Oh, and so
she does all of her music. Because you remember the Nicki Minaj situation, right? When Nicki Minaj did the song and Tracy said no because she doesn't really let people sample her music or redo her music. And the song was put out there anyway, and Tracy came hammering down like, no. I said no.
Anyway, we would like to ask you, what are you listening to these days, Steacy?
What am I listening to? Okay, so there's a 2021 album by Connie Smith that I keep talking about, making sure that people listen to it, called The Cry of the Heart. It's this lush, melodramatic, high femme kind of Rick Rubin-esque attempt at reviving her career, and nobody heard the record, and I want everybody to hear the record.
Connie Smith,
the legend.
Who is she?
I feel like I know her name.
I know the name, but
she's a country singer for like, she's a 60-year career. She's married to Marty Stewart.
Oh, okay. I like Marty Stewart.
But I know her name. I know her name. I know I do.
Yeah. So that's great. And then I'm obsessed with the Kelsey Ballerini, like, super messy divorce record.
Oh. I love a divorce record. Divorce records are always good. I love a good divorce record.
I got nothing out of my divorce.
Not even a good article or something.
No, because it was like so ridiculously amicable. It was like boring. I got a kid. Kid out of the divorce.
Right. The Anthony record makes me cry.
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
The new one is just amazing.
All right, I'll have to, because they're really great. I really
that voice, baby. Ooh.
Oh, that voice.
Yeah, it destroys me.
Yeah.
There is no one. It's so, we always use the like, oh my God, so clever and iconic. That is a voice that you know exactly, you know, who you're dealing with there.
Yeah. And speaking of sort of iconic voices, I love, like, the new PJ. It's gotten some controversy, but, like, I just love the track that Ben Whishaw is playing Elvis on, and she's doing this weird, like, Celtic Green Man, Jesus, Elvis, King, Earth God reimagining on that track, and it's just so weird and so amazing.
I love her. I'm trying to get into this record. I need to listen to it again. I need to listen to it.
I've never gotten her.
I love her.
I don't know why.
She's super talented.
That's not why I don't get her. I mean,
no, I'm saying that's why I love her.
Yeah. She was presented to me at a time that I was just like, I can't with this kind of music anymore. So I think that's the problem. I think I need to kind of go back now that part of my life is over, and that whole kind of, it's not that I hate, I just never.
You never got into the
I never got into it.
Vibe.
Yeah. I never, the vibe was like, I've already done.
I'm saying that's me with the Smiths. I know people love them, and people are very obsessed by them. I've never gotten into it. To this day, I still listen to it. I just don't care. I liked Rick Astley singing those songs.
Yeah, I don't. There's so much. I don't care. We could do like 5 hours on like I don't care, you know. And the I care deeply. We could do like another, like my obsessions about who I worship, the ground they walk on, are so bizarre. Anyway, but we digress.
And then I have one more, because like,
please.
I don't want to like have this seems like a very indie list, and I wanted to maintain my pop credentials.
Oh yeah, because that's that and 50 cents will get you on the subway, Steacy.
I really like Jordan Davis, who is like broy, and I know he's problematic. He's a country singer, but I think he's got an amazing voice, and it's strong writing, and it's dumb and fun, and he's also super hot.
That is not a bad thing.
That does help.
I have made more bad decisions in my life based on super hot. Trust me.
Girl,
there's nothing.
You got 3 days. You got 3 days and a gallon of coffee, honey.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong with like. Why do you like him? Why do you like his record? I don't know. He's really cute. He's really cute. He's really cute. You never have to apologize for. Mm-hmm. He's really cute.
But I like his work too, and I think there's been there's just because it's just been such a shit show in Nashville. There's been this instinct, and I've had this instinct too, where we sort of work through the purity of form, and there are people who are doing genius work on that. Like Willie Carl's record is astonishing. Dean the artist's work is astonishing. Justin Hilton is just one of the best singers out there. But it's all like Americana, and it's all like, I love Americana, and it's all sort of, and Hilton writes about sex beautifully and performs about sex beautifully, but it's slightly tasteful, like. Mm. And what I like about Jordan Davis is that he just refuses taste. I don't even
Courtney,
think
this is screaming out your name right now.
Yeah, you know, like anything that refuses taste. Yeah. I like the counterculture. I'm like, everybody's going left, I'm going right. I'm like, I want to see what's happening on the right. I always want to see what's happening on the right.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think that like he recognizes that. I think if I ever get into an interview, I'm like, can you talk about your aesthetics of vulgarity? It's not going to work.
All right. Steacy, thank you so much. And this is the first time we've actually met. See, the power of social media. I think I got into an argument with you once on the Facebook, and that's how we became pals.
What was the argument about?
It wasn't an argument. You wrote something about Beyonce saying that she was name-checking Gianni Versace on the song, and I said, no, that's her Uncle Johnny.
Oh, that wasn't an argument. That was a well-welcome.
And it's so rare. Let me tell you, it is very rare. I love Jody to bits, but our conversations online usually consist around the Knicks, and having kids who went to the same high school at different times. But when I saw that, I was like,
I actively welcome being corrected at all times and places.
Well, you come to the right show then.
And on that note, thank you so much, Steacy, for coming.
Thank you.
And Amy, intro the book again and tell everybody where they can get it.
Yes. You can get it where they sell books. That's an idea, people. Go into a place where they actually, screw Amazon Prime Day. Mm-hmm. I will, Courtney. I'm a grown woman. I can do these things.
Are you? I keep thinking you're a teenager.
Grown. I know. I had my child in utero. Why? I'm holding it up so you can see it. It's a fantastic book. Why Tammy Wynette Matters. It is part of the University of Texas Music Matters series, which all of these books are great. Seriously, I'm reading Adele Bertai's LaBelle, Why LaBelle Matters. Courtney, your head would explode with this book.
You know how much
we have to do, your head would explode. It's a great book. And congratulations to you.
We look forward to your 33 and a third on Dolly. We love
another
that
great series. Kim Mack was just on the show. We love that series too. So congratulations to. We applaud smart, knowledgeable people on this show.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, because where else do you get to be smart and knowledgeable at the same time? So yes, Why Tammy Wynette Matters by Steacy Easton. It is available anywhere they sell books.
Now, clearly, when I get off here, I'm going to go put on Your Good Girl's Gonna Go Bad because that's Tammy realness. Or
it's perfect.
Or her Woman to Woman. I like Apartment Number 9, but I really love Till I Get It Right. She sings her face off on Till I Get It Right.
That is fantastic.
She sings her face off on that song. I'm like, sing it, Tammy. Sing it.
That is like one of the great anthems of codependency. Yeah. Like I listen to that, I'm like, sing it, and then I'm also like, honey, you should just leave.
Right. But she also
it's not going to get right. It's not going to get right.
And there's a great tribute record that came out years ago where a bunch of different country artists, female country artists, are singing the songs of Tammy Wynette. And Faith Hill's version of Till I Get It Right and Wynonna's version of Woman to Woman. It's just good stuff.
That's somebody who's disappeared a little bit that I want back.
Wynonna
or Faith?
Both.
Faith, right.
But they need to get them flowers.
Well, you know what's interesting about Faith?
I like Faith Hill a lot.
Because she started acting. I believe she was doing a lot of acting work. And her husband, I want to say, still tour and had that Vegas act for years together.
And you know why we love Tim McGraw?
No, why do we love Tim McGraw?
Because his father was Tug McGraw.
So that's why we love Tim McGraw?
Yes! Oh my God, I thought you were a sports fan.
Yes, but I love Tim McGraw because he married...
And he's hot.
Because he married Faith, and I always love Faith.
I always like Faith, too. And Tim McGraw was also on Friday Night Lights, and he was really, really good in that, too.
Listen, Faith on that Cry album...
I do love...
the country people got really upset because they're like, this isn't country, it's pop. But she was singing her fucking face off on that album. She was singing her face off. You know me, when you sing your face off, I don't care if you're singing the songbook. If you're singing your face off, I am down for it.
And on that note,
you know what it is, people. You find us every week on the Pantheon Podcast Network. For all of you who are listening to us from the main feed on Pantheon, thank you. For our followers on our feed and day one followers, thank you. You know what to do. Leave a message, tell a friend, leave a rating, leave a review, leave a pizza. We appreciate pizza. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
It's NFL draft season, and that means it's time to start thinking about fantasy football. FantasyPoints.com features industry-leading experts and prognosticators using proprietary hand-charted data to help you score more fantasy points. FantasyPoints.com is the place to go for whatever kind of fantasy football you play. Whether you play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, or do a little bit of everything, Fantasy Points has the meticulously researched content to guide you to victory. And why wait for the fall? Fantasy Points also covers the new spring football league, the UFL. Join the guru, John Hansen, Scott Barrett, Joe Dolan, and other massive names in the fantasy football universe with an exclusive offer. Use code Pantheon for 15% off any Fantasy Points package, including the all-in package, with access to every article, tool, and data nugget that Fantasy Points has to offer. That's FantasyPoints.com and code Pantheon for 15% off at Fantasy Points. FantasyPoints.com, code Pantheon. Score more fantasy points.